To the story, respected violence monitor in Kwazulu Natal, Haas, has written a very thought-provoking and troubling article in the Daily Maverick. In it, she raises her concern that good cops are being intimidated. She uses the Senzo Meyiwa investigation as an example. Now, she says that Hawks detective Mishak Makubo was charged with defeating the ends of justice, assault, torture, kidnapping and extortion after opening the notorious second docket in the Senzo Meyiwa case. Of course, that docket alleges the people in the house on the night of the murder in 2014 were involved in some way. So earlier this month, the detective and his co-accused were found not guilty in this matter. But Mary says his life is still at risk, and she joins us now. Mary, thanks so much for joining us. You know, it's so interesting as this trial continues, you telling us the story about this detective who was looking into the case itself and started finding discrepancies. I wonder if you can just talk to us about why he was charged after opening the second docket. What was actually at play here?
Oh, I mean, this is what worried me, and this is why I wrote it, because I have spent years and years trying to kind of promote the cause of police who do their good jobs properly and then expose the people who are corrupt. Okay. Now, I got involved in hearing about this at the end of 2021 because of various things that were going on then, and I also made a connection with the Meyiwa family through the, especially through the representative, Spisa, the brother. Okay, so I was getting all sorts of bits and pieces, and Monasela Tefo had actually procured documentation about the second docket. I don't know where he got it from, but this was part of a conference that social worker John Clark organized, in, sorry if I got his name right, anyway, but he organized in the end of 2020. Okay. So I was hearing all sorts of stories, and I mean, an advocate friend of mine who's a very experienced criminal advocate is adamant that the wrong people have been charged and that the people in the house should be charged. And she's just been watching this, but she's very experienced. Okay, now, then I also got very confused about why I knew that Makubo was involved in the second docket because we knew who the investigators were. And I couldn't understand why he'd been charged in this case, which was quite long running, involving investigators who'd been investigating the Cato Manor unit in the North. Okay, then I started to put the story together, and the story is this, that apparently Makubu got involved. He's a very, he's got a string of convictions behind him. He's been in the Hawks, he's been a detective for decades, you know, cash and transit, Haas. And especially I got to know about him because he got one of the very few convictions for political killings in KZN. And it was quite a stunning conviction, 6 life sentences for a hitman, and that hitman is number 5 in the current case, in the case that's currently court in Tuli. He's accused number 5. So I mean, it all became very crisp. This is the story that I have been told, and I have no reason to doubt it. Makuba gets involved. He picks up discrepancies, goes to interview this one and that one, and comes to a man who apparently is quite a crucial witness because he spoke to people on the day that that incident happened. And he says he wants to take a statement from him. And this guy says, but hang on a sec, I made a statement a long time ago. I've given it to 5 people. And then I gave it to a 6th man who came along recently. But the statement wasn't in the document. So Makubu begs him for another copy of it. He gives him a copy. Cooper puts the docket together, takes it to a prosecutor because it seems to him there's enough evidence in to charge. Okay, he takes it to a prosecutor. Prosecutor says, yep, good case, I'm going to prepare the indictment. But hang on a sec, are you saying that that statement wasn't in the docket? And he says, yeah, it wasn't in the docket, but I've got a copy of it. So then the prosecutor says that's defeating the ends of justice, and he must open the case. So he did. Then, the very minute this happens, and this is what apparently happened. The Gauteng, I think he was the Gauteng DPP then, Chauke, phones the prosecutor, stops this, and tells the prosecutor to add Makubo onto an existing prosecution that this prosecutor is handling. And that's the prosecution involving the Northwest Police. Torture, money laundering, kidnapping, you name it.
Which Meshach, and I'm just going to jump in here, Meshach Makubo, Meshach Makubo, nothing to do with it.
Added onto an existing case.
So Mary, what is going on here? Because as I read your article, I mean, I was astonished because you say, you know, you've mentioned that he found key evidence left out of the original docket for the Senzo Meyiwa case. Then he gets charged by Andrew Chauke, added on to this other case. He then has to defend that. Then in August, earlier this month, he gets, you know, vindicated because he's let off the hook. There's absolutely no evidence against him. You believe that there's a deliberate high-level cover-up going on. Now, Mary, this is a very hectic allegation to make. Talk to me about why why do you believe this so strongly? Is there evidence, and can you name names?
Look, there's been all sorts of things coming out about this from different sources, including, I mean, there's one, a sister of one of the accused in court at present has been doing a lot of digging around because she doesn't believe her brother was involved. And she's been uncovering stuff about certain police interfering. Recently, I've got quite a wide network of police people who send information around among themselves. Recently, in came an intercepted conversation between a very senior policeman several years ago and two key people in this about covering it up. There's all sorts of bits of information like that's come up. These allegations have been going way back. Now, if you go to this, I mean, this is my reasoning. This is why I just want an investigation into this. I know that the family isn't happy that Senzo Meyiwa, who's the family representative, brother Senzo, and the family, of course, is devastated. The father died before the killers of his son were found, the usual. And I know that Senzo said the family was very unhappy. They didn't believe that this was the true story. They wanted the second docket prosecuted. He tells me he wrote to the advocate for Toy, and he got a reply saying, well, it would have to wait until the press case is over. So there's been this going on ever since I heard first about this case, which is now over 18 months ago. And then this information that it was Makubu who opened the second docket on the instructions of being told that there's defeating the ends of justice by a prosecutor. It really makes me very worried because in this case he was added to, you see, it's not just this. It's this case he was added to where it was thrown out of court in the magistrate's court in 2017, I think it was. Magistrate said there's no evidence, go back. And this was IPID. IPID is implicated.
Yeah. So Mary, there's a lot of information here. I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to jump in just for interest of time, because it's very worrying what you're saying. You also make the point that you're really concerned that this highly regarded Hawks detective who's got a string of successful convictions to his name, Meshach Makubo, who's now exonerated himself, his life could be in danger. He picked up problems with the way the docket had been handled. You're concerned that it's not just shoddy police work, but there's a high-level cover-up. I wanted to ask you about where we're going with the Senzo Meyiwa case, because we've seen a new judge come in, and we've seen a lot of interesting developments. Quite quickly, we've heard from the cell phone analyst who said that there were 2 calls placed by one of the accused to Kelly Khumalo. Do you believe that we are, in this particular court case now, on the right track to pull everything together?
No, I mean, the people that are there, that are following it closely, I'm part of a group, actually. I mean, I'm part of the Support Meyiwa group where there are people who've been following it very closely, and this is, supporting the Meyiwa family. It's relatives of the accused. And I know that some of the evidence is very strange because, for example, I think at one stage, I picked up bits and pieces of it. At one stage, there was this, the cell phone, by the way, the cell phone evidence has been there all along. It didn't suddenly appear. It was in the document. But Ntuli, at the time Ntuli made this, is alleged to have, in court, to have made this call, I think it was in 2018, 1920 or something. His phone had been taken away from him after he was arrested for the killing of the councillor. He didn't have those phones anymore. So, there are things like this that you pick up. This is what other people have been picking up and saying, but hang on a sec, this just doesn't add up. So I'm really concerned. I'm concerned that, I've always thought, well, if the police aren't doing their job, at least we've got the prosecutors. But if you have prosecutors who are part of this, it suggests that there's a lot of money in this, that there's a lot of vested interests in this. You see, he was a very prominent soccer player. There's all sorts of potential reasons for there being a lot of money involved.
Yeah, good point, Mary. And I think, sorry to jump in, but you make a good point also around this detective. Let's say he made an honest mistake and thought he'd pick up something in the second docket. Fine, then that would have been ultimately disproved. But the fact that he was so quickly charged and, a finger was pointed at him at a case he had nothing to do with does raise questions. Before I let you go, Mary, you've got so many decades of experience in violence monitoring in KwaZulu-Natal. On Friday, we heard about ANC councillor Mabungo Mkhize. He was gunned down in Umlazi. As far as we know, this is the third councillor killed in that region since June. Mary, do you believe that this is just going to be more of the same, another bloody run-up to next year's election?
Oh, look, it's possible. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm not surprised. Somebody asked me because you can't predict it. But I want to say one very important thing here. This is not the first case. I have dealt with case after case of good cops being victimized. I mentioned one of those cases. It was, and the victimization, and this is why I'm worried about Mkubu, because in the past, the cops that have been targeted with malicious prosecutions, I refer to one in particular, because they've trampled on politicians' toes. That's what happened in Richmond in the 90s. They were getting too close to the culprits in the Richmond violence. They were pulled out. They were maliciously charged. And I saw this in other cases. You trample on political toes, or the toes of police who are very important and don't want to be exposed for being corrupt, that malicious prosecutions are very, very common. And this is a particularly conspicuous. And I am worried because, as I said, when I see the extent of all the different stories and what appears to have been a cover-up in this case, I'm very worried about the safety. That basically is why I put that out. To draw attention, to hope that his senior officers will take it seriously, make sure
absolutely
that
you're right.
That he is well protected.
Yeah, Mary de Haas, thank you so much for chatting to us. Mary de Haas, just really concerned about good cops being intimidated when they do their job. She uses a cop that was investigating around Senzo Meyiwa as a case in point, but she says, unfortunately, she is seeing signs that this is happening far too much. Mary de Haas, violence monitor there. Now,